Welcome back, anime lovers. Whether you're here for action, romance, or just some good old plot twists, you've come to the right place. In today's episode, we're diving in.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a detailed review right here covering the grand finale of the Attack on Titan anime. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack for you.
Yeah, this is it. The end of a huge 10-year journey, adapting Hajime Isayama's manga, first with Studio, then MAPPA finishing it off.
Yeah.
And, well, given how people reacted to the manga ending.
Let's just say passionate is a good word for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of hope riding on the anime, maybe sticking the landing a bit better.
And our source review mentions the reviewer wasn't totally sold on the manga ending or even the updated version that came later. So the big question we're diving into, did the anime actually manage to improve things?
Well, according to this review, the answer is sort of yes,
Mm-hmm.
a qualified yes.
Mm.
It's seen as an improvement overall, which I think many fans wanted to hear.
But there's a but.
There's a but.
Mm.
The reviewer still found some pretty significant problems, mostly concentrated in the last half hour or so.
Okay. It's worth pointing out, though, the review consistently gives props to MAPPA's animation. And the music, too.
Oh, definitely. The presentation, the sheer spectacle of it, seems to be a major high point, even when the story itself gets a bit rocky, according to the reviewer.
Right. So presentation, thumbs up. Narrative, more complicated. Okay, let's get into the thick of it. The review breaks it down pretty much scene by scene. Where does this final chapter kick off?
It picks up right where the last special left off.
Yeah.
No time wasted. The Alliance is basically on top of Eren's colossal founding Titan. It's their last stand against the Rumbling.
And Armin's first move, always the strategist. He's thinking, I need to transform.
Right.
Go colossal, find Eren, find Zeke inside that thing.
But bam, before he can even do anything, something really weird happens. He just gets snatched
Abducted
by this
Okapi
Titan, created by Ymir, apparently, in the Paths.
An Okapi Titan. Okay, that's not
Unexpected. Yeah, the reviewer notes it was a real, visceral, what just happened moment. Very unsettling. And for anyone less familiar, the Paths is like this metaphysical hub connecting all Eldians and the Titan powers with Ymir at the center.
Gotcha. So Armin's sidelined, basically. And the others, they're not having a great time either, I assume.
No, they suddenly find themselves surrounded. And Peck, she's sharp. She figures it out quick. These aren't just random Titans. They're like ghost copies of all the previous Titan shifters.
Wow. Okay, so copies of people who held the 9 Titans before.
Exactly. The reviewer mentions thinking this felt a bit out of nowhere in the manga initially, but looking back, they actually see it as a pretty clever way to just instantly escalate the threat. Higher stakes immediately.
Makes sense. So Pick tries to make a move. Go for the explosive.
She does. Tries to detonate the bombs around Eren's neck, but nope. A copy of the Warhammer Titan blocks her, and then all hell breaks loose, basically.
Right, here comes the big fight.
Yeah, the Alliance is fighting these spectral versions of Porco, Marcel, Bertolt. The reviewer raves about this sequence. Says MAPPA's animation here is just, thrilling, past versus present, clashing visually.
Sounds intense, and then just when it looks really bad. A rescue.
The classic dramatic entrance. It's Annie riding Falco's Flying Titan, which is still amazing with Dalby shooting from the back. Just in the nick of time.
Talk about air support. So they regroup, but they're facing a horrible choice now.
Yeah, the immediate danger's past, but they realize there's only one way this ends. They have to kill Eren. The review really emphasizes Mikasa's reaction here, just the sheer agony of that decision.
Heartbreaking. So they split up, new plan.
Yep, divide and conquer. Jean and Reiner take the explosives, aiming for Eren's nape again. Mikasa, Annie, and Connie go after Armin rescue mission. And then you've got Falco, Levi, and Gabi providing cover from the air.
And the action keeps going.
Oh, yeah. The review mentions more great animation, especially Pick using her cart titans, like jetpack gear.
Wait, jetpack gear?
Sort of, yeah. It's maneuvering gear adapted for her Titan. And there's even this dark humor moment, the reviewer points out, where Mikasa and Annie are actually arguing about which Titan grabbed Armin while fighting for their lives.
Wow, okay. A little bit of personality shining through the chaos.
Exactly. And speaking of Armin, while he's trapped in the Paths, apparently helpless, there's this moment where he just lets out this internal scream, pure frustration. The reviewer heaps praise on Marina Inunu's voice acting there, really conveying that feeling of being useless.
That sounds powerful. And that leads us somewhere the reviewer was anticipating, right? The cliff scene.
Yes. They were waiting for this. It was missing from the previous special, surprisingly. It shows thousands of people, refugees, basically trapped.
No,
The rumbling is coming one way, sheer cliff the other.
Oh, man.
And in this moment of just, like, utter despair, a mother passes her baby back over the heads of the crowd, just hoping anyone can save it. And people do. They start passing the baby along. It's this chain reaction of humanity.
Wow.
The reviewer calls it one of the most moving but also horrifying scenes in the whole show. Said it brought tears to their eyes. And visually, it's apparently stunning, mostly black and white, but the mother and the baby are in color.
Like Schindler's List.
Exactly, the comparison the reviewer made.
Yeah.
Really powerful stuff.
Okay, so back to Armin. He figures out he's in the Paths dimension, and he finally confronts Zeke.
He does. And Zeke is just empty, completely given up. He thinks life is pointless, especially after Ymir basically sided with Eren.
But Armin pushes back.
Yeah, Armin counters that nihilism. He recalls his really simple memory just running towards a tree with Eren and Mikasa and their kids. And he argues that those small moments, those simple joys, they're what give life meaning.
And there's a symbol there too, right? With a leaf.
Yeah, beautiful touch. The leaf Armin's holding turns into a baseball. And that triggers a memory for Zeke playing catch with Mr. K-Saver, the previous Beast Titan. And somehow, that memory, it motivates the ghosts of the past Titan shifters. They appear again, but this time they're there to help the Alliance.
How does Zeke make that happen?
That's the thing. The reviewer notes it's never really explained how Zeke does that. It's just another one of those paths-related ambiguities, I guess. But suddenly you have Grisha, Kruger, other past shifters fighting for the Alliance.
Okay, Kruger maybe makes sense, wanting freedom for Eldians. But Grisha, didn't he push Eren towards the rumbling?
Exactly the point the reviewer raises. Grisha's presence helping the Alliance now feels contradictory to his earlier actions shown via Eren's memories. It's complicated, messy motivations all around.
So what happens with Zeke then?
Well, after that moment with the baseball memory, Zeke seems to find some peace. He talks about maybe wanting to be reborn, accepts his fate, and then he makes himself visible outside the paths, calls out to Levi.
And Levi finally gets his moment.
He does. A clean kill, Zeke's death. And just like that, the rumbling stops. The ground stops shaking.
The reviewer found that satisfying for Zeke, even if a bit underdeveloped.
Yeah, emotionally resonant, they said.
Yeah.
Even if they wished for maybe a little more from his final thoughts. But the way the rumbling stops, that raised a question.
How so?
Well, the logic used to be that Ymir needed someone with royal blood like Zeke to use the Founder's power. But Ymir already chose Eren, right? So why would killing Zeke suddenly stop everything? Shouldn't Eren Ymir still be in control?
Huh. Yeah, that seems like a plot hole.
The reviewer flags it as one. But anyway, the rumbling stops. Armin is freed from the Okapi Titan. Jean manages to detonate the explosives around Eren's Titan neck, severing the spine-like creature, the source of Titan power from the main body.
But it's not over yet.
Not quite. The creature, that glowing centipede thing, it's still alive, tries to reconnect with Eren's head.
And Reiner steps up.
Yeah, Reiner tackles it, holds it down, buys Armin just enough time to transform into the colossal Titan, and Armin just nukes Eren's massive skeletal form. Huge explosion.
Finally. Is that it?
You'd think so. There are reunions, people finding their families on the ground. But no, the creature survives the blast, and Eren transforms again, this time into a massive colossal Titan of his own.
Are you serious? He gets another form.
Yep. And then the creature releases that Titan spinal fluid gas all over the fort where the survivors are gathered.
Oh no, not the gas.
Yeah. It transforms all the Eldians there into pure Titans, including Annie's father, potentially Jean and Connie too, who were down there. Just tragic. Especially after Mr. Leonhardt and Commander Muller seem to be finding some common ground. Crushing.
So everyone who wasn't an Ackerman or already a Titan shifter, they're turned.
Seems like it. So the remaining immune members, Mikasa, Levi, Peak, Annie, Reiner, they have to go fight Eren again.
Unbelievable. And this is where Mikasa has that vision.
Right. She gets one of her headaches and suddenly she's in this memory, or maybe an alternate reality, where she and Eren ran away together living peacefully in a cabin.
Did the reviewer buy that? Eren running away?
They expressed skepticism, didn't feel very in character for Eren to just abandon everything, but they admitted the scene itself was emotionally powerful. It serves as Eren's sort of final goodbye to her within that vision.
And then she somehow knows where he is. Inside the Titan's mouth.
Yeah, another point the reviewer wished had more explanation. She just knows Eren's physical body is inside the mouth of this new colossal Titan form.
So Levi helps her get there.
Levi, injured as he is, uses a thunder spear to blast open the Titan's teeth, creating an opening. And Mikasa flies in.
And ends it.
And ends it. She decapitates Eren. Finally. The rumbling truly stops. Ymir is freed. It's over.
Must have been incredibly emotional.
Definitely. But the reviewer did question the timing of Mikasa kissing Eren's severed head right then. They felt maybe it would have landed better within the context of that alternate reality vision she just had. A slight pacing issue, maybe.
And there's another plot point issue there too, right, with the Ackermans.
Yeah, how did Mikasa even have that shared memory or vision if Ackermans are immune to the Founder's memory-altering powers? Good question. The reviewer flags it, but ultimately says, despite these lingering questions and plot holes, this whole section, the climax of the battle, still worked really well emotionally. It felt like a powerful conclusion to the main conflict.
Okay, so the big battle ends, Eren is dead. But then the episode shifts gears, right, into adapting chapter 139 from the manga. And this is where the reviewer's opinion really tanks.
Yeah, this is where the qualified yes on improvement starts to unravel for the reviewer. They describe this final stretch, adapting the manga's most controversial chapter, as a significant downturn.
What's the catalyst? A specific scene?
It starts with a flashback. We see Eren pulling Armin into the paths way back when they were on the boat heading to Marley. And Eren starts explaining things. And according to the reviewer, these explanations are mostly last-minute twists that feel poorly set up or just plain problematic, and they actually make earlier parts of the story retroactively worse.
Okay, let's break these down. Twist number 1. Eren's real motivation.
So Eren reveals his grand plan wasn't just pure destruction. It was to commit the rumbling, become the ultimate villain, so the Alliance, his friends, would have to kill him. They'd become heroes, saviors of humanity, and this might secure a future for parody.
So a Lelouch v. Britannia plan, basically, from Code Geass.
Very similar, yeah. The reviewer acknowledges there's maybe some tiny hints, like Eren letting the Alliance fighting in the end. But it clashes hard with stuff like Eren telling Flock back in episode 87 he intended to wipe out every last one of them, flat out.
So it feels like a retcon.
Pretty much. The reviewer preferred the idea that Eren genuinely wanted the full rumbling, but maybe subconsciously hoped his friends could stop him. This calculated Zero Requiem-style plan felt less fitting for Eren's established character, in their view. It makes him seem less driven by his own warped ideals and more like a manipulator playing a convoluted game.
Okay, that's a big one. What's twist number 2?
This one's about Ymir, the original Titan. It's revealed that her actions for 2,000 years, being enslaved in the paths, it was all driven by love for King Fritz, her abuser.
Wait, what? Love for the guy who enslaved her, hunted her, fed her daughters her corpse?
Exactly. The reviewer really didn't like this one, found it deeply problematic, maybe even offensive. It completely twists Ymir's backstory, that horrific scene where Fritz rewards her by having her bear his children. It's all reframed as some kind of twisted love story.
That sounds bad.
The reviewer thought so. They argued a much better motivation, hinted at later, was Ymir's love for her children, wanting to protect them or break the cycle for them. But no, the story goes with love for her abuser, and then it tries to parallel that with Eren and Mikasa's relationship, which the reviewer also found troubling.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a major issue. Okay, twist number 3.
Also, Ymir related. It turns out Ymir was waiting specifically for Mikasa. All this time, for 2,000 years.
Waiting for Mikasa to do what?
Well,
and was there any setup for this?
To free her, presumably by killing Eren. No, basically zero setup according to the reviewer. The only tiny hint they could maybe see is Ymir smiling slightly when Mikasa kisses Eren's head. But why Mikasa? Why was she the key? Eren literally says, only Ymir knows.
Oh, come on, that's the explanation.
That's it. The reviewer called it a huge narrative cop-out, a massive missed opportunity for the anime to potentially add some clarity where the manga failed. But nope, just only Ymir knows. Frustrating.
Extremely frustrating. Okay, and the 4th big twist. This one sounds wild. Eren caused his own mother's death.
Yeah, this is maybe the most controversial one. Eren reveals he used the Founder's power, somehow reaching back through time, to influence Dina Fritz's pure Titan. He made her walk past Bertolt, who she seemingly should have gone after, and instead head towards his house to eat Carla, his mom.
But why and how? Didn't Dina have her own motivation?
Exactly. The reviewer points out there was already a perfectly good, tragic explanation. Dina's last human thought was finding Grisha. That's why her Titan mindlessly wandered towards their old house. This new reveal, dropped in like 14 seconds of screen time, makes no sense.
And breaks the rules, right? Can Eren control pure Titans in the past?
According to the established logic, no. He can influence Attack Titan inheritors through memories, and maybe influence Eldians via the Founder if he has royal blood cooperation, which he did via Zeke temporarily, but reaching back and directly controlling a random pure Titan like Dina, who has no shifter consciousness. The reviewer calls this possibly the biggest plot hole in the entire ending. It feels like a forced shock value moment that contradicts everything.
Wow. Okay, those 4 twists sound rough. And that leads into that scene, doesn't it? The 10 years scene.
Oh boy. Yeah. So back in the paths, Armin punches Eren, makes a sort of joke about Mikasa finding another guy after Eren's gone.
Yeah.
And Eren just breaks down, crying, saying, "No, I don't want that. I want her to think about me and no one else for the rest of my life, even after I die. I want her to hold me in her heart for a long time, 10 years at least."
Yikes.
Yikes is putting it mildly. The reviewer described it as peak cringe. Just completely out of character for the Eren we've known. Whiny, possessive. It undermined any tragic grandeur he might have had.
And the reviewer felt the Eren-Mikasa relationship wasn't well served by this either.
Not at all. They argue the romance was always underdeveloped, very few actual romantic moments. And Eren's behavior towards Mikasa was often cold or pushy. So this sudden declaration of possessive love felt unearned and jarring. They wished maybe they'd been an actual couple earlier, making Eren's later actions a twisted form of protection, which might have made some sense of this. But as it stands, the dialogue just felt bad.
Okay. So lots of negativity around Chapter 139's adaptation. Was there anything the reviewer liked about this part?
One specific improvement they highlighted was Armin's dialogue after Eren's confession. In the manga, Armin says something like, "Thank you. You became a mass murderer for our sake," which was hugely controversial.
Yeah, understandably.
The anime changed it. Armin still acknowledges the horrific reality of what Eren did, the error they both committed, but frames it more as accepting his own role in the outcome and vowing not to let Eren's sacrifice be in vain. He doesn't thank him for the genocide. The reviewer found this rewrite much more palatable, much more emotionally fitting for Armin. A definite improvement.
Okay, that's something positive at least. So after that Paths conversation, Armin wakes up back in reality.
Yes. Wakes up, learns Eren is dead from Mikasa, and then we get that other moment the reviewer loved, Levi's salute.
Right, seeing his fallen comrades.
Yeah, seeing the ghosts, or maybe just his memories of Erwin, Hang, his whole original squad.
Yeah.
And he gives that final, tearful scout salute. The reviewer called it their second favorite moment of the episode. Just a perfect, quiet, powerful tribute. Closure for Levi.
Nice. And we see some other brief moments of closure.
Yeah, little things. Jean and Connie seem to see Sasha's ghost smiling. Reiner finally talks to his mom, and she seems to accept him, which is huge for him. Small bits of peace after the storm.
But the peace doesn't last long. Muller shows up.
Right. The Marlene Kandor arrives, still suspicious, ready to potentially execute all the Eldians right there. Tension flares up again immediately.
And Armin steps in.
Armin takes charge, declares he's the one who killed Eren Yeager, the Attack Titan. He tries to bridge the gap, explain that the Titan powers are gone, positions himself as the negotiator.
And there's a weird bit with Mikasa and Ymir's ghost.
Yeah, Mikasa sees Ymir's spirit briefly, and there's this implication that Ymir was somehow causing Mikasa's headaches all along. The reviewer found this unnecessary. Like, if Ymir knew Mikasa was the key, why give her debilitating headaches? It felt like another underdeveloped idea thrown in.
Okay. Then we jump forward. Time skip.
Yep, 3 years later. Historia is narrating a letter she's sending to the Alliance, who are now acting as peace ambassadors. She's married the farmer, had her child. Though the father is still technically unconfirmed, the implication is strong.
And Paradise. What's happening there?
It's run by the Jaegerists now. They've built up a modern army, fueled by Eren's rhetoric. The reviewer admits they disliked this in the manga, felt it made the Alliance's sacrifice pointless. But in the anime, since Eren comes off a bit more like an idiot who stumbled into power rather than a master planner,
It makes a tiny bit more sense that his followers would seize control.
maybe slightly more plausible, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the reviewer still heavily criticizes Historia's role. Basically, reduced to being pregnant and writing letters. Way less screen time than the warriors' families back in Marley. No scenes of her in the present day. Just sidelined.
That's disappointing. And Reiner does something weird here, too.
Oh yeah, the letter sniffing. He gets Historia's letter and just creepily sniffs it.
Yeah.
The reviewer was like, really? We needed a weird joke right at the end of his whole PTSD arc. Felt tonally off.
Huh. Okay. So the Alliance are heading to Paradise as diplomats, and Mikasa.
We see Mikasa back on Paradise, visiting Eren's grave under that tree from their childhood. The reviewer wonders how she's even safe there, given the Jaegerists, and how famous she must be.
And then the bird scene.
Right. A bird flies down and wraps her scarf around her, just like Eren used to. It's ambiguous. Is it Eren reincarnated? A simple, just a random bird left open. But the reviewer uses this to talk about their overall disappointment with Mikasa's arc. Feeling she remained entirely defined by Eren, never really grew beyond him, missed opportunities.
So her ending felt unsatisfying to the reviewer.
Pretty much. Tied too closely to Eren without enough independent resolution.
Okay, and finally, the very end, the extra manga pages adapted.
Yeah, the post-credit sequence. And here, the reviewer actually notes another improvement from the manga.
Oh, what's that?
In the manga, parody gets destroyed by war relatively quickly, maybe 50 years later, making everything feel futile. The anime pushes that timeline way, way out. Hundreds of years pass. We see Shiganshina become a futuristic city, then eventually get carpet-bombed in a future war.
So the destruction still happens, but much later.
Much later. Which makes the main character's efforts feel like they achieved something, bought a longer period of peace, rather than immediate failure. But the final shot is still there.
The boy and the dog.
Yep. Centuries later, a boy and his dog wander into the ruins and find Eren's tree, now massive, and looking eerily like the tree Ymir fell into. There's a cave entrance. The implication is clear. The source of Titan power, or something like it, is still there. The cycle might begin again.
So mixed feelings on that.
Very mixed. On one hand, it fits the theme of cycles of violence. On the other, the reviewer really wished the Titan curse could just be gone, definitively. So it leaves you with that uneasy feeling.
Right. So wrapping it all up, the reviewer's final take, good, bad, messy.
I'd say their verdict is messy, but ultimately worthwhile. The final episode is considered good despite its flaws, especially that rocky final half adapting Chapter 139.
But the strengths were significant too.
Definitely. Mappa's animation, the music, the voice acting, all consistently praised. And those standout emotional moments like the cliff scene with the baby or Levi's salute, they really resonated.
So even with personal disappointment about the ending's narrative choices,
They still recommend the series as a whole. Absolutely. The themes, the twists, the characters' attack on Titan is still seen as a landmark anime, even if the ending didn't satisfy everyone. And they do acknowledge many anime-only fans seem to love this ending much more than manga readers did.
so different perspectives.
Exactly. And the review finishes with a thank you to Isayama for creating this world and to Wit and Mappa for bringing it to life over 10 years. Regardless of how you feel about the ending, it was an incredible journey.
A journey indeed, and it definitely leaves you, the listener, thinking, what does make a truly satisfying ending to something so complex? And how do we square our own feelings with the fact that these stories can mean such different things to different people? Lots to chew on after the rumbling finally settles.
And that's a wrap for today's anime review. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your fellow anime fans, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our next deep dive.